Yes.
Woo-hoo!
Little marching groove for you today.
Yeah, I was listening to a little marching thing this morning, and I kind of got a
morning
thing.
Bart was in kind of a military mood.
I was.
5 ways to leave your lover.
Like Steve Ellington, he was in a rudimental mood. That was actually the original title of In a Sentimental Mood.
Yeah, I was in a rudimental mood. Yeah, you heard that version of it. Yeah,
written by Warren Baby Dodds, but then they changed the whole arrangement and they turned it Sentimental Mood. Apparently that was the right decision, but we found
it was a wuss. It was a wuss. Sentimental.
What's happening, everybody? Welcome back to the Drummers Education Connection. We're all here today. You know us by now. Bart, Rick, Chip, I'm Jeremy. And we're here to provide drumming content, talk about stuff related to drums, drumming, teaching, drumming industry, life, things that we collectively can offer you some wisdom about. If you have anything you'd like to hear us talk about, if you have any questions, please chime in the comments. We love to hear from you guys. We try to answer every comment we can. And we also have a Patreon page, and we'd love for you to support what we do by you can give like $2 and it makes our day. It makes us smile. It puts the pep in Rick's coffee. And you get stuff for it. Even if you give us a couple of bucks, we give you things of ours, like our books and our videos and lessons and stuff like that. So Chip will put the Patreon link in there for in a sec. Today we are going to talk about learning 25 songs in 2 days. But before we get to that, we are going to talk about good things. What's happening good for you guys? Rick, what are you doing? What's good for you?
You know what's good for me is yesterday I had the day off, had a great day with my wife Julia, and I listened to a Bart Ropley interview. Yeah, on the drum set Shrink with Stefano Ashbridge, and it made my day, Bart. I just love listening to it. You inspire me even off our show on other shows. It just put a skip in my step. I was just so excited, so impressed, and I know I might be stealing your good thing.
Oh no, thank you, Rick.
We can share good things.
Yeah.
That's right.
Chip, what's happening with you?
Man, not much, man. I'm drumming it to church and teaching students. I got a progressive rock trio that I'm jamming with on Sundays. We're looking for a band name, and we're coming up with all kinds of funny ones like Clam Salad. And don't know
blood sausage. Right?
Steel toast.
The new Mickey Mouse Club.
Yeah, right.
Burnt toast.
That's about it.
All right, that's good. Bart, you got a whole laundry list of good things going on.
I just started a new company right now naming bands. I just started it, like as we were going. I came up with 2. Yeah, things are going great, man. Yeah, Stefano's show was awesome. Rick, thank you for bringing that up. It was so cool, and he is such a nice guy.
Yeah.
I got some information about how we're trying to take DEC and take it into a podcast area. We got got a few little bugs we got to work out there, but we're going to be, I got some information from Stefano during the show. Things are going good. Books out in my new book, The Rhythmic Journey is out and doing well. I should have hard copies soon. Getting ready to do some shows at the SMB for the end of the year. Going up to North Dakota for a night where it's going to be cold, and we're going to play a show up there, and a couple of shows for the end of the year, and just rocking and rolling. Got a new song out by The Ruins called Gold. You can hear that on Spotify. I was really happy with that tune. I don't know if you guys have heard it yet or not. Chip's going to put a link to it in the thing here on Facebook, but it came out really good. I'm really proud of that song. It's an old 70s tune. So that's what I got going on. Jeremy, what about you?
I told you Bart was going to have a laundry list of good things. I was right. And he's got clean laundry too.
I wouldn't know. I think we don't have smell-o-vision.
Let's see. Heading into the recording studio this weekend. I've got 2 sessions, one on Friday with my son Evan, and then with MoPhone, we're making recording our 4th album this weekend. All original compositions. Very excited about it. We just booked a CD or an album release show, I should say, in January in Berkeley, and just submitted to apply to play at Montreux and Umbria Jazz Festivals, and that's pretty exciting.
Very cool.
Yeah, that's the big news going on. Oh, revamping the website, so a whole brand new MoPhone website's going to be coming out. Excited about that too, and I know there's other good things, but I'm going to leave it there for now because we got a lot to talk about.
Well, real quick, are you guys recording up at Skywalker again?
No, Skywalker. I will be there again probably next year, but Bart's asking. He's referring to Skywalker Sound Studios, which is like state of the art, top of the line recording studio in Marin, where George Lucas had his giant compound Skywalker Ranch, and that's where they have movie studios and sound recording studios. And I got to record there last year, and it was an incredible experience, real treat. But it also costs, like $3 or $4 grand a day. So no, not when I'm funding the project, we don't record there. That's when I'm playing on the project that's got a big budget, anyways. But what were we talking about?
25 songs in 10
25
minutes.
songs in 25 days. No, 25 songs in 2 days. So
25 songs in 2 days.
2 days. 2 days.
That's a lot. I don't know 25 songs at all. I don't know 25 songs. I don't.
Right. So you're out.
I'm out. No, I'm just going to sit here.
This has come up. This has come up for me on a handful of occasions, and I'm sure it's come up for some people out there, if not you guys. And if it hasn't been exactly like this, maybe it's been something a little bit similar, right? You get a call for a gig or a recording session, and you've got a lot of material to learn in a very short amount of time. Let's use this as an example, but of course you can tweak it as you like to fit your experience, your story. Rick, what has this happened to you where you've been called for a session or a gig and you've got to learn a whole bunch of tunes in a very short amount of time?
It has happened. It's mostly been you have a gig and it's in a week, but my schedule is so full that I don't have very much time to prepare for that gig.
Right.
So
yeah,
it's
effectively the same.
Normally, I'm not going to have 2 days in a row that I could just dedicate to preparing for a gig. So so it's definitely been some serious crunch time.
Okay, so you get the call, say, "Hey Rick, we got a gig next Saturday. Today's Saturday." And you're like, that sounds great, but for 5 of those days, I'm completely booked. I'm out of town, and I've got other things going on. So I'm going to have 2 free days to work on the material.
Right.
What's first of all, do you take the gig?
I take the gig if I feel like I could pull it off.
Okay, good answer.
If I feel like if I could feel like I realistically am going to do really, really well with it.
And it pays really well, and it's with some musicians that you really want to be playing with.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
And it's somewhere fun to play, and are they going to give me a sandwich?
Yes, you get
something.
You get a choice of sandwich and a bag of chips, and you get free refills on your fountain sodas.
Yes.
Oh, dude, I'm in.
Yeah, I knew Bart was in the fountain soda.
I'm in. Yeah.
So,
I'm in.
And the first thing, if I feel like I cannot pull it off, I'm delighted that they called me, but what I will do is refer the gig out to someone I think will be able to do the gig and do it really, really well. Because it's my reputation. I would not want to refer a drummer who I think is going to bomb.
Okay, sure. Well, let's say you take the gig.
All right. Yes.
What do? You got 2 days. You got 25 songs. What's your plan of attack?
Okay, my plan of attack is going to be writing arrangement charts. And I'm going to recommend a book, How to Write a Fast and Easy Drum Chart.
Who's that by?
It's by Liz Ficalora. Forgive me if I mispronounce your last name, Liz. And this is a book on how to just basically make a nice little quick arrangement. If you're listening, you won't be able to see this, but it starts coming down to song. I start learning the structure of the song, as in the intro is 4 bars, no drums. Then come in on a musical intro for 4 bars. So verse, 8 bars. pre-chorus, 4 bars. So I'll write out the arrangement. And what I try to do, especially if it's original music, is get with the band leader or whoever knows what's going on with the band and ask them if they have any arrangement charts or even lyric sheets. I'll ask about lyric sheets because that can really, really help me out a lot too if it's original music. And then I'll basically say, okay, well, here's the first verse, and then I'll write out the beat of that verse. And hopefully it's a steady beat that's going to make it a lot easier. And then so basically I'm going to have, okay, what's the pre-chorus? And I'll just really quick write out that beat. So basically I'm going to have one sheet with the entire arrangement and the beats. And
Rick, what if there's a song where like the part is really dynamic and it's changing all over the place in the verse?
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
Yeah. I might simplify it if I have to. And that's kind of the overview of this whole thing is I really try to simplify, try to like just think about tempo and getting the job done. And I'm more concerned about tempo is number one. So that's the first thing I got to do. The tempo is 110. And so I'm going to put a metronome on and I'm going to practice a little at 110 with that feel. And I want to sink that in. What's the point if you have all these fancy parts, but the tempo is all whacked up, right? So,
Bart, give us the 3 words. What are the 3 words?
You got the words, Bart.
3 words.
Time.
Groove, time, and feel.
There you got it. Bingo, bingo,
Sorry.
bango.
You know what? I'm listening to Rick and he said tempo and I looked down at my book that I'm going to use for my example and you said 3 words and I was like, I got stage fright. I went
blank. You got called on in class when you were not paying attention to the teacher.
If you had a ruler right now, you could slap me on the knuckles.
Chip, what about? We'll come back to that, Rick. But that's a good start. What about you?
Sorry.
What's that?
I said, Chip. I said we'll come back to Rick, but I want to ask you what's your method for learning a lot of material in a short amount of time?
Do I get all the songs on a playlist?
Let's say yes.
Okay. Well, the first thing I do is I start loading the playlist. I play it on my car. I play it in the bathroom. I play it when I'm eating. I play it while I'm sleeping. I'm listening to the playlist and listening to all the songs. So that's number one is I'm listening. The second thing is I make a chart for each song, even if it's a simple one. I put down the feel of the song and I write down, where I'm going to, intro town, and then on the way to Verseville, and then I go to Chorus City and then over the bridge. And I wrote my little blocks of where the parts are in the song so I can have a big, an elevated view of what the framework of the whole piece is going to be. Sometimes they'll put extra solos in during live show, but if they're soloing, they're probably soloing over a certain part that I've already got down. And, and I'll write any of the specifics. I'll look at the whole list and I'll go through listening to it and I'll think about the hardest ones to do, the ones I'm least familiar with that have like different drum parts or different changes or breaks that I need to, stops that I need to learn. And I'll put a little star next to those. And I usually bulk up on those. And I'm pretty good with the rest as far as listening and doing a little chart of each of them.
So great point, Chip. You talk about prioritizing, right? You don't want to necessarily spend equal time on all the songs if they're not all equally challenging. You want to make sure you get the hard ones and then let the easy ones knock them down. No problem.
Yeah. And it depends on what kind of music too. I mean, if it's blues and funk and rock, then I'm not going to be that challenged. Bless you. I'm not going to be that challenged by it. And usually you're going to be doing some standards that I'm probably aware of. And in that case, if it's a good bass player, he can just wink at me and give me a couple cues, and I'm off to the races.
Yeah. Bart, do you ever have a bass player wink at you?
All the time. All the time. And they always wink at me.
You sure they're not looking at you funny? Like,
it's kind of a smell thing again, the smell of it. I want to know from Chip though, when he's going to Verseville and Chorus Town, if he draws pictures of Corsairs like he has in his book.
Sometimes.
Yeah, I see.
Sometimes
I would hope so, man. I want to see one of Chip's
because
charts.
we're flying there, man. We're not driving.
That's right, man. It's a chip chart. Hey, so yeah, I kind of do the same thing, and I've got, man, I can talk about this for days. I've got some do's and don'ts I want to throw at you guys, and with some examples. I always refer to, Tommy Igoe Groove Essentials, man. This is such an amazing book. And if you guys don't have this in your library, you really, really, really need it in your library, because it really teaches you how to make a quick reference chart, a quick chart. And literally, like, I like this one right here, Groove One. It is so simple, but literally that's, okay, this is your chart right here, okay? Right there, that's your chart right there. Okay, 16 bars repeated 4 times, and it gives you all the pertinent information. The first time through, you got percussion, guitar, and bass. The second time through, the keys come in. Third time through, clavinet comes in. Fourth time through, no percussion, no hand percussion. So what I do is exactly what Rick said. I definitely start with writing out this quick chart, and I'll get a blank piece of manuscript or just a piece of paper, and I'll write the title of the song. I'll write the tempo of the song, and then I draw out the main groove. Whatever the groove is, I draw it out. And then intro, play 4. And I don't draw I just draw a line and I say play 4. And then verse, play 8. And maybe in the verse, it's a side stick. So I'll put, SC, or ST, just something letting me know that I'm going to a side stick. I want a click sound, right? So I note that in there. And then I go into the chorus, I put CH, and then I put a V for the next verse. Now the next verse sometimes might be doubled. So I'll just write play 8 and put some repeats on the end of the play 8. I also have a highlighter. I'll highlight the repeats because I don't want to think, I want to play. So I'll see the repeat, and it's like, hey, Bart, pay attention. You're going to do this 2 times. Mm-hmm. And then the bridge. And like Chip said, if there's a solo or a breakdown, drop out for 8, drop out for 4, whatever. I put those little notes in there. And then I also, this is a Kenny Aronoff trick, I always put the first line of the vocal on the chart, because most of the time when if I get called to play a gig, it's got some vocals in it. And so I'll put the first line of the vocal. Now here's a point in my life where there wasn't a vocal. I got a really weird gig a number of years ago. This is back in the early 2000s. I got in this band called Neil Norman's Cosmic Orchestra. And you can Google it and look it up. It was on Crescendo Records, and it was put together through Paramount Pictures, and we backed up all the Star Trek and Star Wars actors. They all played something. They all did something. We either walked them on stage, please welcome William Shatner, bra, da, da, bra, 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 whatever. And then at the end of the night, there was a concert by this guy, Tim Russ. Tim Russ was on Star Trek Voyager. And it was a last minute gig. It was for me, it was high pressure because it was Paramount Pictures and they had screens and Martians and all kinds of stuff. And I had to play this really eclectic music that, like the theme song from 20,000 Leagues Under the Ocean, all these weird songs that I'd never heard. I had to reproduce this music, and it was super challenging, and it was a lot of fun. And so I made those kind of charts. And then what I did, I also have a little, and this is again a long time ago, I think I had a Tama rhythm watch or something over here. But nowadays what I do is I have a little thing I clamp onto my hi-hat, and I put an old phone on there, and it's got a metronome on it. And, if I'm not using my in-ear system like we use with SMB, but I've got a monitor barking at me, or I can listening off the stage, whatever the gig is, I've got the click going in my in-ears. So now, hey man, the song's at 110, not a problem. I got you. I got the click there. I'm at 110. And then, if I'm at 110 and it's 110-ish and maybe the guys in the band have the best time, and I'm fighting it, and they can tell or I can tell as the band's starting to sound stiff, I'll reach over and turn it off. Just play at 110 and hold the band together with my own time. But at least I get started in that ballpark. What about you, Jeremy? I mean, you do a lot of these gigs. I mean, you do this a lot.
And the answer is there's a little bit of a range of it depends, but for the most part, I'm going right to charts. And my charts can vary in their level of detail. But before I tell you about that, one of the things that I have to mention for our listeners, which all you guys have already mentioned, but maybe we take for granted as experienced players, is understanding how song form and song structure works.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Right.
In most pop and rock songs, you've got these standard components that are put together in pretty common sequences. So you've got intro, verse, chorus, bridge. Maybe there's a vamp. Could guitar solo could be over a verse or a verse chorus or a vamp. Could be, the bridge could be, you could have a second bridge or an interlude or outro or coda. For the most part, intro, verse, chorus, bridge, solo, chorus, right? Being able to recognize those pieces when you listen to them and hear them instantly and know what they are. Pre-chorus, I forgot that one. That's really important because as soon as you sort of step back and can see the forest for the trees a little bit, you can start to see, oh, I get it now. That just goes, A, B, C, A, B, C, D. That's not so bad at all when I think of it like that. Whereas if you're not hip to that and you're just listening to the song, you're feeling like you've got to listen to it 5 times, 10 times just to like get a roadmap, right? Yeah. So for us, I know this is true. When we listen to songs, we can get the roadmap on the very first listen through. So, all it takes is one time listening through. We understand how the song goes. We could play the song on the second try, maybe missing some level of detail, but at least putting the pieces in the right order. And then like Barton, like all you guys were saying, then getting a little bit more granular with the details and, okay, what's the groove for the verse? What's the groove for the chorus? Where are the stops? When does it switch to the ride? And if there's something that's important that I think like, oh, that's an iconic fill, at that last bar leading into the chorus, I'll actually write that little piece out. But for the most part, my charts are even more compressed. I'll try to get the whole gig on 2 pages if I can. And so I might write just like V, C, V, C, B, all in a row like that. And on top of the letters, which obviously stand for verse, chorus, and bridge, I'll write 8, 12, 8, 12, 8, And then if there's, and I'll put a little note next to something or an underline if there needs to be a stop or some arrangement figure, and I'll, blow that up and I'll write bar 7 and I'll write the rhythm out above the bridge or whatever. But that way I see the whole what do you call structure in one glance. And then I have my reference grooves, and I'll also often write in for myself if it's like an original song that I've never heard before. I'll write a reference that clues me into the feel. So I'll maybe it reminds me of this song. It's got this, this is kind of like Beast of Burden from the Rolling Stones. So I'll just write Beast of Burden in parentheses. That's the feel I'm going for. And we've all played so many thousands of songs. We've got so many reference points. It's pretty easy to sort of, get the vibe of the song if it's something common, right?
I like that. I'm going for Beast of Burden vibe or, whatever. Just kind of, that tells me kind of like what the opening lyric tells me. If I can't get the song in my head, like, here's, whatever tune, and how does it go? Well, the opening lyric, I got it. 1, 2, 3, that's a good tune. I can count it in. Yeah, that's
exactly.
I like
sort of
that.
Like trying to be authentic to the style. Let's say it's a cover tune. So I know it's a Rolling Stones tune, so I'm aware of how Charlie Watts might play a song.
Right.
So I can bring that in. So that's a great important thing to do when you're listening to a band. Like I know the kind of drumming that AC/DC uses.
Right.
Yeah. Well said.
Right.
Trey Cool is always going boom on his fills.
Well, and for myself, I can use words that I know what they mean to me. So I might write, heavy or medium or light, and I have references for that to give me a sense of what that means.
And I like that too, Jeremy, because, and for anybody out there that watches this or is watching, if you've never done this before, this stuff doesn't have to make sense to anybody but you.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, the drumming police aren't going to come to the gig and go, why did you draw that? You know, I mean, this needs to get you through the gig. You know what I mean?
Right. Right. And that's a good point. There is also a whole Nashville system of notation.
Right.
That does similar things, has measure counting
like
and breaks and anticipations. Oh, that's another thing. When there's anticipations, right? When you're crashing on the end of 4, I might write a little sideways caret, like a greater than sign, one of those alligator mouths to tell me there's a push beat, in certain spots. And one of the most important things that I put in my charts is whether the drums start at the beginning of the song or not. Because there have been a couple
counts
times,
in?
yeah, right. When I forgot to do that, and I'm like, "Fuck! Do I start, or does the piano intro?" Like,
Yeah.
And that's just having the confidence of no, tacit 4 bars or in at top. I'll write IAT, and it's just I know as soon as the count's in, I'm playing. So
Yeah.
Jeremy, I have a question for you.
Yeah,
because I guess I would say that you play more jazz gigs than us 3.
Combined, I would say that's probably true. Yeah.
Yes, and so I think a lot of times people think jazz is just improvisational, but we kind of know there's a structure. So do you have like a different approach if you're preparing for a jazz gig as opposed to say a standards gig?
Well, standards. I mean, standards. Jazz standards are standards. Did you mean rock standards?
I meant rock standards.
Right.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, if it's a jazz gig, like if someone calls me and say, "Hey, I'm playing at the hotel with my jazz trio. We need a drummer. Are you free?" Yes. I don't get a set list. I don't get anything. I just show up, sight unseen, no rehearsal, no preparation, and we're playing jazz tunes. And these are tunes that the assumption is, for the most part, if you're a working professional jazz musician, these tunes, standard repertoire. Everybody plays through the
from the real book, right?
Right. Now, there might be occasions where someone will call a tune that I don't know, and that's cool. So I'm game for doing that, and I just listen to it and try to catch the hits as quickly as I can. And so long as I know the feel and the time signature, I'm good to go. Right? Oh, it's a bossa nova. Oh, it's a swing. It's a ballad. It's a waltz. It's a funk. It's a mambo. I can bust those out. So I don't actually prepare for jazz gigs unless it's original music with an original band. You know what I mean? Like that's a different deal.
That's where the wink from the bass player comes from.
Exactly. Yeah. And I've got to say something, because both Chip and Jeremy, you touched on this. We're talking about jazz with you, Jeremy, and Chip, you said something about blues, right? I've said this to my students over the years. I think when you're like you said, there are certain songs that you just know, right? Jazz standards, that the songs you're gonna play. And in blues, let's say you go to a blues jam night and you don't know a lot of the tunes. I think Jeremy, you said, okay, oh, this is a bossa, this is a mambo, this is, whatever. I think, same thing goes for a blues thing. You need to know how to, just drive a rock and blues tune. You need to know how to play a 12/8. You need to know how to play a shuffle. You need to know how to play a train beat. Right. It's not so much like, okay, this is the song that I know how to play. Sometimes it's okay. Here's the feel. Okay. I need a train beat. I'm going to give you a train beat for this tune, and then hold on to it. I'm going to give you a shuffle, and we're going to shuffle the tune, whatever. Having those things in your belt, will help you a lot through these type of gigs. I mean, just knowing the traditional feels, groove time and feel.
Absolutely. When I studied with Zorro, he would say, that's what he would say, that if you want to be a working drummer, learn all the standards. So you are just ready with all the standards, and then be able to play any one of those songs within any style. So, Brown Eyed Girl, play Brown Eyed Girl country, play Brown Eyed Girl jazz, play Brown Eyed Girl punk, play Brown Eyed Girl reggae.
Right.
And the list goes on and on and on. So
yeah,
I want to hear Brown Eyed Girl played funk or punk. I really want to hear that.
Yeah.
Yeah, go for it, Rick.
I'll work on it next time.
Yeah, dude.
And the
come on.
That's perfect.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That was badass.
Well, that's exactly right, though. You hit it on the head there. Bart. Like, if you, or maybe it was Rick said it. If you're well versed in all these styles, you know, the groove and the feel and the time, like those, you've got those ready to go. So then it's just like being on your toes, listening for arrangement stuff that you can catch, right?
Yeah. Well, and Chip hit on something too. You know, he was joking, so the bass player gives me a wink, but dude, again, you nailed it, because okay, let's say you know all these tunes, you know the standards, but let's say you got a couple of songs in there that you had to learn for the gig, or you listened to a billion times on the way to the gig, and the song fades on the album you're listening to, you know, and you ask the bass player, hey, how do we end it? You know, blah. Okay, you're good. But if he turns to you and we go ba ba ruga ruga bump kablam, you know, glad I asked, you know. I mean, you know, you've got to take those visual cues, you know, the body language and that. And hey, a shameless plug for my new book, the Rhythmic Journey. There's a whole section on there on nonverbal communication, you know, and I think that nonverbal communication, when you're at the end of songs, or hey, this is our arrangement, here comes the bridge, 2 3 4, you know, now letting the drummer who's subbing or whatever know, you know, and having those big ears. And
Bart, is there a section on winking?
Oh yeah. As a matter of fact, there's a video version coming out, and Chip demonstrates it. Chip, if you, what happens if the bass player's on the left side? You know, how do you wink then? Right. What if he's on the right side?
And what if he winks with his left eye versus his right?
Right. What if there is no bass player and the keyboard player is lefty bass? What do you do then? I mean, you know, there's a whole. It's a deep subject.
Right. And the wink can mean something. Yeah, it can mean different things in different contexts.
It can mean way different things, man. It can really, you know, way different things. We keep going down a weird path.
So, have you guys ever taken an entire chart and brought it to a gig?
Oh, good question.
Oh,
can I answer that first?
Yes.
So I had a call a couple of years ago to sub in a band. It was the one time I ever played with them. It was a Little Feat tribute band.
Cool.
Feet Print, great band, really, really good musicians. And you know, I was familiar with Little Feat's music. There was a couple of tunes I didn't know as well, but I wanted to get this, like, I mean, this is a tribute band, right? So the level of detail and authenticity is really got to be dialed. And it was a festival gig, so I wanted to put my best effort out there. So you know, and he gave me these charts that the drummer had made. Here's a good story. He gave me these charts that the drummer had made, which to me were like, oh man, these are terrible. Like I mean, for me, right? They were fine for him, right? They give him the information he needed, but they weren't clean, and the repeats weren't obvious, and you know, there was too much information where there didn't need to be, and not enough information where there needed to be more for me. So I wrote out my own charts, and I wrote out complete charts, like, you know, lots of repeat bars and stuff, but like more level of detail than I would in a normal situation like this. And, you know, so whereas oftentimes I'll go to a gig where 25 songs in 2 days, I've got everything condensed down to a couple of pages of arrangement notes. This was more like, no, I've got a chart for every song, and there's a lot more level of detail, and there's specific, like lots of breaks, specific fills, and specific groove things. And I just read it, you know, and I'm like, okay, well, I could play this gig, and I practiced, but I didn't have enough time to learn and memorize everything for the one gig. And I was like, you know what, I'd rather have the charts up there and nail it than, you know, not read and fudge stuff.
Right.
Yes.
So, you know, I think the band appreciated that. You know, ideally, yeah, if I'm in the band, you know, by the third or fourth gig, I'm not reading charts anymore, right? You want to be present and have the stage presence and be, you know, visual communication, more aware and all that. But for that one gig, you know, nailed it because I had these great charts.
You know what I think is such a great skill? Like, I think of Kenny Arnoff. Kenny Arnoff reads charts all the time.
Oh yeah.
And he's got the chart over there to his left. I think he's kind of glancing at it a little bit with his left eye.
Yeah.
And you don't really, he's still present and he's still,
Kitty.
putting on a great show.
Well,
So
that's a
just
good point.
because you have a chart doesn't mean
Yes.
that you're like reading
No.
in a book.
Yeah, you don't have to have your nose
I'm
buried
glad you
in
said
it.
that, Rick, because that's so important. It's really easy. I've seen this in band works a lot where drummers have charts, and even at the concert, 8 weeks into the thing, they're glued to the music, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh man, you're not aware, you're not listening, you're not focused on the right things. And even as a professional, even on the one gig where you are reading, you've still gotta be able to multitask and like read, get the information you need from the chart, but also be paying attention to dynamics, to tempo, and to some visual communication. And if it's a big show in front of a lot of people, you don't want to be sitting there with your head on a swivel, buried in the music stand the whole time.
Yeah, and I think that being able to glance at the chart, for me, I use a lot of repeats and just counting. So I'm in the verse, it's 8 bars. I look over, 8 bars of groove. I count. I look at the band. I make sure I'm making eye contact with the audience so it doesn't look like I'm, the new guy, because people listen to music with their eyes. You go to a concert, especially if it's a rock gig. That's why Kenny
Mhm.
Aronoff not only is an amazing drummer and an amazing reader, but you watch the guy play and it's like Godzilla playing the drums. It's fun to watch. They don't want to see you married to the chart. They just
Right.
don't. And
Well,
I got to throw this out there as far as, and this is a little helpful hint. If you guys ever, when it was around, did you guys ever play at House of Blues Hollywood?
Yes.
Did you play them?
I
Okay.
played there with, Barnyard Bowers played with
Yeah,
Necromantis
so I
there.
played there and I was subbing in on a gig, and it was this guy, Bill Kurd, and Bill's still around. Great guy if he happens to be watching. And I didn't have any of these with me.
Mhm.
Okay. Now, here's the thing. For those of you, if you have or you have not, Rick will probably corroborate this. When you play at the House of Blues, and this is a whole other subject matter, you got to be able to play a backline kit because you play the House of Blues drum set. You don't bring your special comfy cozy drum set in. So be ready to play on the backline kit, which, if you've seen the show for any length of time, I love playing backline kits. It happens to me a lot. I do a lot of fly dates. I'm very comfortable with that. So, and the kit was good, had good head, sounded great. It was fine. That was fine. But what happens when we used to play there, the drum riser at that particular venue was like playing on a trampoline. It just bounced like crazy. Remember that, Rick? Oh, it was horrible. And I'm subbing on this gig, right? I'd never played with I'd never played with any of the musicians. I never had a rehearsal. I never anything. I'm reading charts. I'm literally reading them. I'm so new to it. Like, okay, I know the title of the song, but I can't connect, okay, the title of the song with the song. I'm just like, I'm reading my charts. I don't know. And it's original music. So it's not like, it wasn't like I was playing Brown Eyed Girl. Okay. It was, I'm playing original music. My charts were in order, but in comes the paperclip and the trampoline drum riser. The charts fell on the floor. Okay. Yeah. And they went everywhere. And I'm like, oh shit. And so the charts fall on the floor. Luckily, I had a set list. Okay. So had I not had a set list, I wouldn't have known what to do. I would have been hosed. So have a clamp, have a little, one of these little paper clips to clamp your music onto the stand. Have a set list. Don't just say, oh, I got my charts, I don't need a set list. No, what if something like that happens? I was really able to quickly, get and it wasn't a lot of songs. It wasn't 20 songs. It was, I think, 10, but, get my songs in order and get them back on the thing and get ready to go. If something can go wrong, it will go wrong at the gig. We've talked about that before. So, little things like that when you're reading and when you're doing a last minute thing, And so and the musicians in this band were heavyweights. The guitar player on that gig was Austin. I can't remember his last name. He plays with Dennis DeYoung, guitar player. Plays with Dennis DeYoung. Just a phenomenal guitar player. So I want to make a good impression. So you always want to put your best foot forward. And I gotta say, we want to make a good impression at any gig. I never have gone into a gig going, oh, it's just a club gig. Who cares? It's just, the same people are going to be there. They're our friends. No, oh man, you go in there, go for the throat every time. It's just the way it is.
I just want to double back to something Chip said, because I think it was really important about, we were talking about, everyone's talking about charts, but, he was talking about how important it is to listen to the tunes. And I second that, because the charts are great, they give you information, but like hearing the songs, that's how you actually understand how you're supposed to make the music sound.
Yeah.
And if you just do your charts real quick and don't spend enough time listening to the tunes, you're gonna probably come off mechanical sounding and maybe missing the vibe. And the vibe is more important than a lot of the details that you're going to put in those charts sometimes. So
yeah.
So what does the band care about? They just care that you sound good and feel good, right? Music sounds good and feels good. And, you do that from listening and playing with good feel. And, if you get the arrangement stuff, great. That's important too, but not at the expense of the most important, which is time and feel.
Right. I've never had a bass player. Oh, go ahead, Rick. Sorry.
I like what Chip said about listening when you're asleep. You're listening all the time. You're listening in the shower. And I think that really is a big part of what it takes. Just that's all I'll really listen to is the set that I have to get together.
Yeah. Right.
That's Chip. That's really what I did on that Star Trek gig. There was this piece of music. It was really a really cool piece of music. It was called the Star Trek Encounters. And what it was all the theme songs from all the Star Treks, like from the original Star Trek all the way up to, at that time, it was Voyager, was the last series. And then it had little pieces of iconic Star Trek, I said Star Wars, Star Trek music in there. So you had all the Star Treks theme songs, and then like there's one on the original Star Trek with Captain Kirk and Mr. Spock called Venus Dance. There was a Klingon warrior piece. It was a brilliant piece of music, and you can hear it. You can go to it was recorded on Crescendo Records. It's amazing. It's on YouTube. Just look up Neil Norman's Cosmic Orchestra, and it's a really cool piece of music. And it was long, so it was like, and it was the finale of the show. It was like probably 8 minutes long. It was a big chunk of music, and listening to it really helped it sink in, so Chip, totally, you had to do that.
Rick,
did you hold your stick like that, Bart?
I did. You had to
live long and prosper.
I still have the outfit I had to wear too. It was a cool gig.
That sounds cool. Did you meet Tuvok? Is that Tim Russell? Was that his name?
Oh, dude, I played with him many times. Yeah, he was actually, the way that gig went was throughout the day we would play all the weird eclectic music, and then we would get up and the people would listen to us. They'd come in and listen, and then we would walk people on stage when they were giving a talk and talking about the show, whoever it was. Please welcome William Shatner. Like I said, da, 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 and you'd play the theme song to their show, right? And you'd walk them on. And then all of them sang or played guitar or something. So we'd have to do like, a Donna Summers tune, or we'd have to play When the Saints Go Marching In. I mean, literally. And then Tim was the headliner, because he had 2 albums out on Crescendo Music at the times. At that time, he has quite a few more now. Great entertainer, and we played those records. We backed him up, and
cool.
It was really cool.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
One theme that I would say is consistent that all of us have said is writing out charts and writing out beats. And this is another big pro for learning how to read music.
Yeah.
If you can't read at all, you are really kind of depending on just getting it by ear.
Right.
And, and so it's going to be a lot tougher if you can't read. And when I have a student who comes in and says, I have to learn a song for my band, whether it's crunch time, whether they have a long time or a little time, the first thing I do is look up and see if I can find a chart. And Drumeo is amazing for that. Drumeo has over 5,000 charts. And so I'm going to that all the time.
Yeah.
But there's drumscore.com, there's Online Drummer. So the drum parts.
Rob Farrell.
Rob Farrell. There's a Facebook group. Joe Bergamini's on that a lot. What is it? I think it's this Drum Chart Archive, I think it's called.
Oh, cool.
I don't know if you guys know this. I don't sell these or publicize them, but I've got almost 1,000 charts that I've written over the years. And if you ever need anything, just make sure you ask them in case I have it.
Let me throw this out there now that you said that, Jeremy. What's the difference? Because I get this question a lot. What's the difference between a drum chart and a drum transcription?
There isn't necessarily a difference. So a drum transcription is a drum chart, but not all drum charts are transcriptions, let's say. So transcription,
that's the way I put it too.
Transcription is a note for note, writing down of everything the drummer's doing. And usually those are from the beginning of the song to the end of the song. Like everything's written out. So on Online Drummer, on Online Drummer, where I've contributed a handful of charts, all the charts are from beginning to end. Every note is notated on the paper. If there are short sections that repeat, there may use a repeat, but how drummers, they always do that one bass drum difference, so then you got to write the whole thing out a second time.
Yeah.
But that's not what we're talking about for being prepared for gigs, right? I mean, that's a ton of work to get that level of detail in your charts. And they're useful tools. But I'll tell you this, speaking more globally about chart reading, I've had some students who can read charts really well, but can't make the music sound right. Exactly. And then I have other students who can make the music sound great, that they're not that great at reading charts.
Yeah.
And the chart only gets you so far. That's just the what. That's not the how.
Yeah.
And the how, in my book, is more important than the what most of the time.
Yes.
I think it comes back to what Chip was saying, and that's listening. I really do, because
one of the other things I also talk about is when I'm learning so many songs in so many days, I usually try to get to a point where I can take each song's chart out and play along to it without freaking out. You know what I mean? Being able to,
that's a good measuring stick. No freaking out. Totally.
No freaking out. Being able to play top to bottom without freaking out. Then I feel better about that. And I'm able to condense that drum chart down into little finer notes. And by the end of the 2 days, or usually get down to the point where if I've got a set list on one piece of paper, I can usually jot down my tiny little chicken scratch self notations, little notes to say what feel it is, what time it is. And 9 times out of 10, I'm lucky enough to get that on one piece of paper for the show.
Dudes, for the next deck day, we should do a challenge where we've each got to learn the same, we could do it in real time. Oh my God, this would be so fun. You have to learn a song. You get 5 minutes and there's a song and none of us know what the song is. And we all have to learn it in 5 minutes. We get to go off in our headphones, right? Whatever we want. And then I can all play the same song. Wouldn't that be fun?
Right.
Oh, that'd be so fun.
That would be a kick in the pants.
Be fun to compare notes.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And then we could talk about our processes and.
There's a great DVD, and Rick, you and I've talked about it before. The Art of Playing with Brushes with Adam Nussbaum and Steve Smith.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, and I mean that's a little bit different subject, but
right.
I mean Joe Morello. I forget who all the drummers are on there.
Yeah.
But they all play the same song with brushes, and it's like completely different, and every one of them is brilliant,
Right. They're all
so little bit different subject, but
Right.
that's what I thought of. That's what jumped in.
I wanted to mention a podcast that I heard on Drummers Resource, on the Daniel Glass show on Drummers Resource, where Daniel outlines the difference between like a lead sheet and a drum chart and a transcription.
Oh, I heard that one. Yeah.
It's in the archive. They have over 600 episodes, but no one has explained it better than our brother Daniel Glass. So, and we're running out of time, but I would look at that that podcast, and it's a great resource.
It is a great resource. It really is. It really is.
Yeah.
So I think summing it up is it's one of those things where you've got to kind of use all the tools at your disposal. I think, writing out charts, writing out transcriptions. Hey, a lot of people don't think to all go to the internet and see if I can find a transcription for it. Okay, I found a transcription.
But you never know what you get also,
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I've got some pretty bad charts. But, being able to read the chart and make it feel musical, I think.
Yeah, one thing I did before too, in a different song, if it's a real eclectic song, sometimes I'd print out the song lyrics and then chart my drums according to where the lyrics are.
Yeah.
That has helped me before in the past.
And if you can get a lead sheet or a chord chart, like a guitar chart, that's got measures and everything, then you can pencil in information, but you've already got the structure already built.
Yeah, that's a way to beat the system there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Cool.
Very cool.
I've told you guys the story about the time I had to go into play a gig with no charts, right? And no familiarity with the songs.
No.
Tell us. Is that in your book?
It is in the book. Yeah, it's in the the new version of the book, but it wasn't in the first version.
Yeah.
I got a call for a gig. It was the same day.
Oh, I read that. Yes. Tell this story.
And it was like, hey, can you play this gig tonight? My drummer just got sick or whatever. And it's mostly original music, kind of roots rock, country, kind of Lucinda Williams, Johnny Cash, that kind of stuff. And I said, sure, I can do the gig, but I've got no time between this phone call and, 5 hours from now to learn any of your original tunes or listen to anything. I can just show up with a drum set and do my best. He's like, that's all I'm asking for. Let's go. So, it was not like a high stakes gig, but like Bart said, no matter the gig, you want to make a good impression. And so but in a way, it's kind of liberating without any charts. I'm like, okay, I'm all ears, completely paying attention visually and sonically to try to catch things. And, the bass player was a friend of mine who had recommended me for this. And so I was like, hey, dude, before we play each tune, just tell me the vibe, tell me the time signature. And is it a shuffle? Is it a rock? Is it country? Is it train beat? Whatever, 12/8. And so he just gave me 2 words between every song. And, that was it. And then I would just watch, and I'd watch the singer, and I'd watch him, his shoulders rise and fall, and I'd watch him pull the guitar up, and he was facing away from me, right? So he was never looking back at me to give me any information, but I was just trying to watch his body language and, make eye contact with the bass player and try to catch all the stops. And, end of the gig, the guitar player came up to me. He was like, how did you do that? He couldn't believe it. He was like, you've never heard my songs before, but you played them like, even you're familiar with them. And I was like, well, thank you. But, it's just paying attention. And, this is not hard music. It wasn't like crazy bars of 7/8, but predictable. And, using my skills like we all have of being familiar with song structure, like we talked about before, and being able to predict, okay, verse, it's either going to be 8 or 12 or 16, right? So I'm watching what's happening after 8. Is it sort of revamping up, or is it continuing on with the same dynamic, and just trying to do that? Okay, I hear him strumming a little harder. I'm going to throw in a fill and hope that here we're going to the chorus. And, most of the time I guessed right.
Yeah, that's another benefit of being, like Rick said, familiar with different genres, right? Not just what you like, but learning all the stuff that's out there.
Anyway, so the gig went great, and I ended up playing in that band for 2 years because he was so impressed with how I did on that first night. And he's like, "Hey, do you want to be the new drummer?" I was like, "Oh, okay." So you never know.
You never know.
You really don't, man.
Be prepared.
Yeah. Yeah.
There it is.
That's really cool, man. I remember reading that, and I think we talked about it one time
That's what I thought.
on the show. It got brought up, and I love that story. I love that story, you know. And with something like this is, you know, a question for myself and for our viewers. With something like that, you go into it like, okay, I want to do my best. I always want to give my best. I'm more worried about the musicians on stage than anything. You
Right.
know, I'm more concerned with them. How did you deal with the butterflies that you surely had? Okay, I don't want to screw up. Here we go.
You
Well,
know,
how'd you deal with that? Because that's a whole other subject. But
I wasn't honestly all that nervous because I knew it was, you know, I mean, this is one of those gigs in a bar with the pool tables and the sawdust on the floor. It was not like, you know, people sitting around listening, you know, they're playing pool and hanging out, drinking beer. And it was low stakes, like I said. So that was a piece. And then the other one was like, I knew that I had nothing to be nervous about because I had nothing to be prepared for. Like I didn't know anything to remember.
right.
You know, it was just like, okay, this is just me winging it. And so I'm just going to be confident with my ability to wing it and be perfectly cool with making some mistakes, of course, right?
Yeah.
Like, because there's no way I'm going to know everything. So in a way, like kind of letting go of expectations was kind of liberating and made me feel not nervous at all in that context, if that makes any sense.
I read this little thing this morning in like a daily little read book thing that I have. Book's called Don't Sweat the Small Stuff.
Mhm.
And it was, you know, letting go of perfectionism.
Yeah.
And the guy said, you know, I've never known anybody that is a perfectionist that has internal peace,
Mhm.
because, you know, they're not okay with, you know, the little things in life where they just enjoy the day. It's not perfect, you know. I got bills to pay and, you know, this and that, but man, what a beautiful day. You know, you've got to,
Mhm.
and I think musically you have to be able to do that, right? You have to be able to let go of any expectations and just kind of play the music, do your best job, but just play the music, you know, and what's going to happen will happen.
Right. Helps to keep in perspective like that. Nice way to end up.
One of the reasons to have a drum chart of a song is to be able to let go of all that planning and just follow the chart and trust your instincts.
Right.
Yeah. Right. It's not to create more stress, it's to create less stress.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Very cool.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in today, man. This is a great episode.
Thank you.
I learned a lot from you guys, and so really great advice, and hope you guys learned something too. We'll be back next week with more good stuff. We got some exciting things coming up. I guess we're not too far away from our Christmas episode.
We're not.
We'll be giving away a whole bunch of stuff from our sponsors and endorsers, and we'll see you guys next week.
Awesome.
Thanks, everyone. Take us out, Bart.